Hi, this is Michael Binkley,
And this is Sumana V.
and this is our Matlab final project. So for our initial project, you call up the actual script file by typing bond.
And it pulls up the story, the background story about James Bond. So it says James Bond is racing down the pier in an attempt to get the girl. She's been kidnapped by Professor Waller and is being held in a yacht 20 meters wide in the bay. There is a 45-degree angled ramp at the edge of the pier. The top of the ramp is level with the yacht deck. And the question is Bond able to make it to the girl in time? So we have two inputs. The first asks how far away is the yacht from the ramp in meters.
So the user will put in how far it is away, and then the second question comes up is what is Bond's initial velocity? So when the user also inputs this, it defines the kinematic equation for it, and then when they hit enter here, it will calculate it for them, and then what comes out is it'll dialogue that says James Bond saved the girl for this case. It'll also show the distance, how far he traveled, and then it's going to talk about the maximum height. And then also a graph is produced.
And this graph shows two things. As you can see in blue, we have Bond's height, the trajectory of his motorcycle starting from the ramp and onto the yacht deck. And the green dotted line shows Bond's velocity during this time.
Okay, and here's a demonstration of Bond not actually making it to the boat. So let's say that the boat is 20 meters away, but let's say Bond is traveling at an enormous initial velocity of 100 meters per second. So when this calculates, it's going to come out that Bond did not save the girl, obviously, because the distance that he traveled is over 1,000 meters. And then so if you look at the graph of the trajectory, you see that he way overshot the boat and he was traveling at an enormous velocity. And then another example is if Bond undershoots the boat, so let's say the boat is 300 meters away and Bond is traveling at an initial velocity of 10 meters per second. So once again it outputs that Bond did not save the girl. He only traveled a distance of 10 meters and his maximum height was 2.5 meters. And you can see on the graph his velocity as well as his trajectory. So there's the three scenarios that occurs where he undershoots, overshoots, and lands on the boat, but there's only two outputs of he either saved the girl or he did not save the girl. And if you go into our actual script file, as soon as it's load, from here you can see we have the basic display code for the actual introduction story, and then we get the two inputs from the individual. In this case we define gravity as 9.81, and then what we did is we calculated first we used the kinematic equation to figure out how far he would travel in the x direction, and that was solved just using physics. And then we used two different methods. If how far he went was less than the distance to the boat, it outputs that James Bond did not save the girl. If it is greater than, well, we have one if it's in between the interval of how wide the actual yacht is and how far the boat is away, and that's if he saves the girl. But if James Bond is greater than that, then it's going to output that he did not save the girl because he overshot the boat.
We also did a for loop in order to calculate the maximum height that James Bond will reach given the two inputs that the user selects. And this is done with the for loop. As you can see, we start out with two equations. There's y1 and there's y2, and each of these represent different heights that are calculated with varying input values of time. And the loop continues until y2 is greater than y1, at which point it'll display the max height as y2.
And then from here we have, it's going to display the amount of distance that was traveled here, and then it's going to display the maximum height reached. And then what we're plotting is the two equations. We have the trajectory equation, which is defined right here, which is the basic kinematic equation versus time, and then the second one is the velocity of Bond, which we have defined up here. So both of these will be outputted in the graph, and we have we defined the two different types of lines as well as we had a legend present.
So that's just sort of an overview for the code behind our program.
Thank you very much.
Have a great day.